How's it going, everyone? I'm the one and only 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿. Welcome back to a new video. And in today's video, we're going to be simply talking about, and probably like once again from the thumbnail and title, you probably get the idea. You know what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about loot in Path of Exile, the problems with loot in Path of Exile, what my issues with it are, and ways that they could endeavor to improve it. Currently, here in just a minute, I will play some footage that I recorded of myself clearing part of a gold T9 map. And then from there, you can literally just extrapolate. Like, I could have cleared it on a gold T16, but I just had a bunch of yellow maps that I was doing stuff with. Anyway, you'll get the idea just from seeing a yellow map, a T9 map, and it only gets exponentially higher and more problematic as we go. These issues get higher and higher and higher issues as the more juiced T16s come into play. So we'll talk about my issues with Path of Exile's loot, how they can fix it, and what I'm thinking about. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the support we've gotten. Last night we crossed over the 200 subscriber threshold. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. It's great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You are all fantastic. And let's keep the ball rolling. Let's try to hit 1,000 as quickly as we can. Like I said, my goal is to hit 1,000 by the end of the year. But if we can, smash that in half, that would be awesome. So yeah, I would really like that. Let's dive in now and talk about the problems with Path of Exile. The problems with Path of Exile's loot systems and like what is wrong with the loot in Path of Exile. So, for starters, they have addressed that they have a loot problem. They know they have a loot problem. They know that this is an issue. But they've said, basically, this is the best that we can do. They implemented the default loot filter. And here, I'll pull that up for a second if I can actually go into the game. So yeah, if you go into options and you go here to your game tab, there's a default. There's a default item filter. And they even have a setting called hide ground or filtered ground items. This literally makes it so that your computer does not even show you or register and have to process your ground items. Things that are being filtered out are just ignored entirely by the game, by your processor, so that it's not having to make your game run slower, basically. Because it was at a point where even when you had a loot filter, it was still having to process all the items, and it was slowing down games. So they fixed that. But that's the core of the issue. Why are so many items dropping that it is slowing down the game? Why is the loot so diluted to a point where it is it is dropping so many items that it could actually affect my game's performance, that it has to process all of that? And obviously it's going to some degree, no matter what drops, because it's still going to have to register animations, text, and the items falling onto the ground, etc., etc. It's still going to have to register that stuff, and it's still going to need to process that. But why is it so why are there so many items? Well, I mean, essentially, it is the problem of, bloat. It's the problem of content bloat and item, I guess you would call it item bloat as a result. As more content comes into the game and came into the game, it got more and more juiced, more and more monsters got added after the conquerors got added and after the other influence types got added, more pack size, more item quantity. And as a result of all of these things, you get to a point where you're dropping so much loot that you have to filter 99% of it out, and you have to use either their default filter, or more likely, like most people do, if you make it to this point of the game, you use a filter blade filter, filterblade.xyz, or you use some other filter. I think there's probably a couple of other sites that do it, but you use a loot filter. So that is the core problem. Why do we have to use loot filters? What will it look like in Path of Exile 2 that they've said oh yeah, we're going to fix loot in Path of Exile 2? what miracle change are they going to make in Path of Exile 2? I don't know. That is like one suggestion that they have thrown around is making rares and rare items drop less frequently, but rolling deterministically or more, like not deterministically, sorry, rolling more favorable mods, I think is essentially the way they put it. Rolling with a better pool of mods and dropping less of them, essentially, to kind of cut down on the item bloat. And I think that is a great direction. I think they should endeavor to make it where I don't need a loot filter in Path of Exile. They should still have it as an option where if I want to customize the way my drops, drop and sound, and I can add, whatever. If I want to add, anime girl noises to whenever my exalts drop or whatever, or my divines drop, etc. If I want to do that, I like the customizability of having that, but I feel like it shouldn't be necessary to keep my game functioning and not just like getting overwhelmed. I have some footage from the T9, and I either will already have played it or I'll go ahead and play it here, and you can all watch as I turned off my loot filter and ran through the T9 map that I was talking about before. And yeah, I mean, you can see here around some point, I don't know at what point, I'm not trying to sync this audio up, I'm just voiceovering as I'm recording still, but you can see as loot drops just how much of it is just like white items, blue items, random junk currency. Most of it's trash items and things that you would never really need or use. And that is the thing where they need to look at it, right? They need a scaling loot system that essentially registers like, oh, this person is level, 80. This person's level 85. This person is level 95. They don't need white items to even drop below a certain level, below a certain point. They don't even need white or probably blue items to drop below a certain point. Like, while you're leveling through the acts, dropping white items, blue items is fine. You might need some of the bases, you might need something to craft on, you might need something like that. Rare items, obviously, do the best you can. Rare items can still potentially cause some bloat, but if they will roll the favorable rares, like they're talking about doing in Path of Exile 2 at some point, I forget when they talked about that. It might have been during a Bay Class podcast or something, and it could have been a while ago. I hope they're still talking about it, but anyway, maybe I'm having a fever dream and I'm just giving them more credit than they've talked about, but I distinctly remember them talking about rolling favorable rare items or something to roll them better and less frequently so that you could get less but still have the rares that you're looking for. Anyway, but yeah, just drop less whites and blue items as the character levels. Make it a like progressively shifting loot curve where it like you don't even need white items. If you look at the footage, or if you looked at the footage while I was clearing it, you see so many white and blue items dropping on the ground. I am a level 96 character with all the Atlas passives, all of the like bosses I've killed at least once, like all the basic bosses. I didn't do Ubers, but all of the basic bosses, I did all of the Maven invitations, etc., etc. I killed Maven twice. I don't need white items. I don't need blue items to drop anymore. You can literally turn that lever off. Obviously, they have to make these systems, and so that's kind of a problem, but like you don't even need to drop me white and blue items unless they are like, specifically like high item level on like a rare base, right? Like dropping an eye level 86 white, elder, astral plate used to be like really, really, really good. Like now it would be dropping the hybrid evasion and armor, which still kind of makes me sad, but that's entirely different video. Go watch my defenses suck and how to fix it video if you want to know my thoughts on defenses. But drop only those, only have those like specifically good bases drop, and just have it, as I said, as the character progresses, as you get into the 70s, 80s, especially up into 90 and above, I don't need white items to drop anymore. Outside of like the level 80 basis. Like if you want to drop, like if you're showing me like, oh, you dropped a steel ring, you dropped an opal ring, you dropped a high level base, then you can show those. But not I don't need to see, 30 white items drop. I don't need to see 20 blue items drop. But, if you'll just make it where it's like, okay, I'm dropping, the occasional, like I'm dropping currency. I dropped 10 rare items, and of those 10 rare items that I dropped, like two of them were kind of interesting. Maybe I could craft a little bit on it and just continue to work on making that better. You will then solve this loot bloat problem that we're talking about, where I'm not just going to run through a map, drop 100 white items, 100, 200 white, blue items, maybe some currency that gets lost in the shuffle because the, currency is not being shown well enough in without a loot filter. And then just make it where there's less junk, essentially. Just eliminate a lot of the junk from the loot systems, and then you will cause just better game performance, better player experience, less confusion, because then a player is not going to just like run their first map and get buried under a just ocean of white items that they'll never use. That about sums it all up. I think there's a lot of ways they can improve loot, not just these. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any suggestions for ways that they could improve the way that their loot systems function. Let me know if you're, what you're thinking about, and if I enjoy your comment, I'll give it a heart. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you're new here. Once again, I really appreciate all the support. We're already at 200 subscribers. We're a fifth of the way there. Let's try to continue to just sprint towards 1,000. And yeah, thank you all so much for the support. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have a great day. I'll see you for a new video tomorrow.